Yes, you present, so I can relax.
Yeah. The only difference to yesterday is we have 10 minutes more.
Right. So yes, we have done this same situation with a different slide deck, but from the principles are there, and we have to talk it in different ways. So I have to say who is what. My name is Brender. I'm Mr. OneDrive, and I'm coming from Germany. And the other guy on the right hand you see is Goelles. He's a MVP developer from office developer, sorry. And still the third person, that's our backup, or my backup, if you want to present, is Stefan Bisser, and he's an AI MVP. So the two guys left and right for me, they are coming from Austria. So we want to tell you a little bit about what we can do in the reality and what does a community bot for OneDrive has to do inside Teams. And that's the big story we want to have. But before we begin, we will do a little more interactive. We want to talk about the history. How does it come that people as MVPs during their normal job? I'm the only one. Yes, I still have jobs as enough as I have retired. I have less time, but sometimes I have workshops for mid-sized companies and so on, and I have no time. Retired people have no time, so that's the reality. But okay, starting with the history of Mr. OneDrive Spot.
Yep. Hello, welcome also from my side. We will now talk for a couple of minutes about the history and the technology behind the bot, and then, probably like 20 to 25 minutes of the session, we will actually talk about during using the bot. There will be something like a race where you see, okay, what was the idea, and the idea coming to life that we want to digitize the knowledge of Hans around OneDrive. But let's start in the beginning with the history of Mr. OneDrive Spot. And the history actually, or the first moment, the event that sparked the idea was at the Chapman conference in Vienna back in 2019, where Stefan and we work for the same company. We did a session on bots and what to expect from them in Teams and how they can improve your workday and where their limits are. And Hans was in the audience of that session. And afterwards, as I already said so many times, we are very thankful to have this connection to get honest feedback on not only the session, but also the topic. And their discussion started around, okay, so a bot can do this and that, and how can it really be helpful? How can it really be improve my day-to-day? And Hans gave us honest feedback that at this point in time, it was nice to have a bot, but there wasn't really this groundbreaking, this breakthrough ideas and things happening. It was the beginning, and it was a little bit rough in the edges, and we see that also in our bot projects that you need to be helpful, you need to be responsive and really adding value as a bot, as the program. Otherwise, you are like looked at like something to play with or a game, and people will drop you very early. Stefan and I went home from that conference, and we started thinking a little bit different about the things we are doing. As always, those inputs of community events are very important to us. Half a year later, we met again.
SharePoint conference.
SharePoint Saturday, this time in Munich, and we already prepared something. So we wanted to confront Hans with an idea that we created during those weeks before or months before. And in the end of the day, what we did was like the idea of Hans knows so much about OneDrive. How can we make that knowledge accessible around the globe, around the clock, without him in the need of answering all the questions every single time, like repeating himself? That's probably one of the main reasons why so many people still write blog posts in our community, because then you can refer someone to, okay, I know what you're feeling, I know what the problem is, look at this blog post, I laid it out there, I went through all the stuff. and this knowledge is there, but okay, it's in the blog somewhere, or it's in a documentation of Microsoft in some cases, but we wanted to make that accessible inside of Teams by just being a bot, and you can ask the bot a question and get back the answer. That was the idea, and we started from there with a first idea of the picture view with Mr. OneDrive Spot, right?
So we have to talk to the people why Mr. OneDrive Spot. That was some years ago, as Stephen Rose come as a new manager to the OneDrive group. He's now working for the Teams group. So you see, that's a difference. He was an MVP in the old times, and he listened to the people during MVP Summit. MVP Summit is that all MVPs have the chance to go to the campus and have different people and meet together and so on. And so in a break situation, I came from the restroom, and there were 3 managers, old managers. They make 20 years now thinking and so on. And they say, hey, Hans, stop. I have to introduce you to Steven. And is Hans. Hans coming from Germany, and we called him Mr. OneDrive because he knows all the stuff. And then the name was born. It was not me. He gives me this name. Microsoft gives me this name. And yes, then I say, okay, if it's there, I make some autograph cards, and that's a good story, but never end. Therefore, Mr. OneDrive Spot, we want to target myself, but you will see in a few minutes that was a good or bad idea.
The idea was that we basically, I think we lured Hans in with the idea of, hey, you just need to fill out an Excel file, and we do all the magic and the rest.
Yes.
Turns out it wasn't it was a good catch, but it wasn't really a great plan, to be honest. We quickly moved away from only being able to save the data in an Excel file, and moved over to the core of the Q&A Maker. So Q&A Maker, a service from Azure that is like knowledge as a service, or your knowledge database as a service, and that's basically the backend of our bot. And we started with the idea, okay, we make our lives easy, and we will store all the questions, all the answers actually in German. That's our mother's tongue, so it's natural for us to speak, write, and work that way. And the idea was, okay, we were 100% sure, and we still are committed to be globally in terms of reach. So we knew that there will be an English translation, and even more, the idea was to create a translation for all the possible languages. In our case, Bing Translate offers. Back then it was, I think, 76, 78 or something like that. But we really realized pretty early, it's way better to start with an English database and use English as a base and translate everything out of the English source. Bing is way better that way in terms of the translation. If you start in German, or at least we only know it for German, I have no idea how it is if you start with French, Spanish, Italian, whatsoever. But starting with a German database didn't really have this breakthrough achievements. We then had some rough edges again with translation. We will see it later on. We use markup in the Q&A Maker, and just from a technical point of view, the idea is that you can speak to the bot in your own language. We will recognize your language, take your question, take it to Bing Translate, translate it to English, look for an answer for your question in our English database, get back the answer, retranslate it to your very own language, and then answer as a bot. So we are capable of all those languages Bing is offering us. Problem is, Bing has really problems, or at least at around that time frame, with markup, with formatted text. It's so unbelievable, but formatted text.
First, they give me an Excel file, and second one, they give me this markup. And it was a fight markdown. That it's critical because you have to learn that important star star messages star star means messages is not later on if the bot answer this message in bold, so with one star italic, and so you have to learn about this stuff and all with the pictures. And the thing is, it doesn't work very well. You have to learn that. And during this time in 2020 at the beginning, I fight again as Q&A maker. Now they have a little bit better because I have now an editor, but it's only for the beginning, and I will tell you later on what the challenge for us there is. Yeah. Okay.
After that time frame, we had a couple of months and released our first beta version, I think to around 100 people around the globe, friends, and yeah, was close to say friends and family, but all our community acquaintances around the globe, and tested and got some good feedback on translation, on formulating questions, all that stuff. And next milestone was to submit the first release to Microsoft, because in the end of the day, we wanted to be available in all possible tenants, so through the Microsoft App Store. And yeah, providing or submitting an app to the App Store was like let's put it this way, because it's recorded, so we need to be very careful. Wow. It was an interesting experience.
An interesting experience is a good thing. The thing is that we have a lot of procedures we have to change. First of them, we want to have it in Teams. That means, okay, during the pandemic, Teams is growing so much. I remember more than 100 million daily users. So I say, okay, that could be interesting. You build one thing, and each person in Teams could happen this one. So that's a very interesting stuff, and we decided to do it in Teams. And therefore, we have to submit it, and then it comes back. We have to do a lot of stuff. Not me, Thomy, and the third part, we have to do it. And then we have some big discussions, the big discussions with Microsoft Legal. So I told, or we have given also the beta version to the product group at Microsoft. And as we have to say, we submitted, we have involved all the people up to the vice president. So that was a good idea, but they have to discuss with Microsoft Legal about the name, OneDrive, Mr. OneDrive. That's the legal name. We have to discuss with brand. That's not so easy for Microsoft. And the vice president later on takes some weeks, say, okay, here I have a chance to give you another name. And that was only the name, and therefore we have to change, because the people say, no, Mr. OneDrive. So, okay, therefore they said community bot for OneDrive. So that's a good, if I say it now, it's a good idea, because the people, the IT people around the globe, they know me as Mr. OneDrive. But thinking that you have 150 million users, they can attach it. They have no idea where Mr. OneDrive is. So therefore, it's a good thing that's a community bot. It's built from different people out of the community and give them the chance to ask questions about OneDrive in each perspective. Therefore, in January, we got a new name. And then there was a little things, you know it better, Thomas, that you also have some fightings in February with the submission team.
Yeah, it's in terms of what, just to give you a couple of insights. Of course, we had to change a little bit on our code, but not really that much. Most of the changes that was assigned to us in that process was like, okay, we used the wrong picture formatting. We used the wrong colors for our outline of the app. So more like how the app really represent itself in the App Store. That's very important to Microsoft. It's a good thing, because so we are a little bit protected from from stores like on different mobile phone platforms where you're bombarded with different applications and you need to make a choice from as an end user. So that's a good thing. And the other, of course, very important thing for Microsoft is that I think there's a questionnaire with like 80 questions about how you store and make sure that you protect data of the users. And another part is how you make money out of your service and what to make, how to make it in a correct way. We are not interested in either of those things, so we don't store any data, and we are a free tool. So that was somehow, it looked like a special case for the team submission team, that there is a community effort that creates something for free and that doesn't want to monetize on the platform and that doesn't store any data. So was a little bit of explanation going back and forth. And of course, this is a team that is responsible for handling the app submissions around the globe. So they are split it up through time zones. And
yes,
like always with those big corporations, we are the same team, but it felt like we just talked to an email alias, and the persons behind that alias maybe changed depending on the way of the sun. Like, okay, different time zone, different day. Like if we would ask something in the morning, we would get questions or answers back from a certain team. If we start the same question in the evening, we would get back different answers from a different person because their team is split up. So that's a little bit of a struggle, but nevertheless, we managed to get it out a couple of weeks ago, and it's available in your app store under the name of CommunityBot for OneDrive. If you head over now to your app store and you're not able to find it, most probably your IT department did a good job in terms of governance, and you're not able to just install an application. It's like two hearts pumping in my chest right now. The one guy that says, okay, lock everything down and make sure you have a concrete governance plan about Teams, and the other one that's like, please use my app. So both ways, but it's available, and you can talk to your IT department to make it available, or you can test it out on a test tenant, or even you can go in 5 minutes Microsoft developer tenant and you can play with the bot already. But moving on, a short part of the technical background before we jump to or into the demo environment. In terms of what we are able to achieve with Teams as a platform, you probably all are familiar with the possibilities in terms of commands, actions, tabs, module pop-ups, and other UI integrations inside of Teams. Ours, of course, is a bot, and all those platform enhancements basically are powered by Microsoft Graph, the Bot Framework SDK, and we are able to reach across devices with those tools. The bot, of course, in our case, it's developed in .NET, and we use the bot framework. Actually, we still use a very old version because we don't want to or we didn't spend the time right now to rewrite all the dependencies in the bot, because if you go back to the time frame, it's a multi-year effort actually, and the bot framework of course changed as well. But we wanted to get out now this first version, and there is already a second version running in some demo environments and test environments, so that we can make sure we use all the latest and greatest the bot framework SDK offers us. Then there are two different groups, of course, in terms of managing and creating those apps in Teams. There are those enterprise developers like myself and the company I represent. We create experiences that customers can use in their tenant, like a singular tenant, so very private or very protected stuff, and of course also the option for ISVs to create applications that are available for all the users out there. I think ISVs, for if I do remember it correctly, is integrated solution vendors. So this means like organizations that create apps and offers their apps, and not only for a local tenant. And IT admins, of course, can manage and govern those applications, and it's a good thing that those roles are split up. And of course, you can get certified and published attestation and all those things. In terms of the architecture, the user starts with asking a question. We are routing those questions through the Azure Bot Framework to our bot. So it's more like Teams is the front end. Then we have a middle part that's actually our bot that looks at the question and decides to act on it depending on the language or what we found in terms of commands. If we get a regular simple question, we then just ask through a web service the Q&A maker to get back answers or possible answers for what the user entered. The Q&A maker is a service, Q&amaker.ai, you can use right away. It's nothing that needs to be tied into a bot, but it's just one tool that you also can integrate there. And in terms of how can you formulate a question, or how close do you need to define your question and answers in the Q&A maker, because in the end of the day, the Q&A maker gives you 2 columns, one for all your questions and then answers to those questions that you provide there. And the Q&A maker sits in between. It's not something like the regex or a string compare, and the question needs to be exactly the same way, but it also isn't like LUIS, the language understanding part of Azure. It's not really trying to make any deeper sense, deeper meaning of the question. That would mean that we really would stick to one language, and it's way harder. And like, okay, we still believe that there is added value if you are also available in every possible language that we can come up with in a machine translated way. Going back,
I want to say on this time, so in these 2 columns, so I have to learn a little bit. The thing what I have to learn was, hey, it's not for IT people only. It's for each user. So I have to look inside Google, Bing, and other languages, other search things, that to have to, what do the people ask if they look for something with OneDrive in it? And that is a long list, and therefore you have more than one question gives to one answer. Sometimes it's 5. I think we have 6.24. So that was the last 6.24 questions finding the right answer. And therefore, the AI part who looks for the correct one has a possibility to change it. That may be if you turn the sentence, if you have another word in there, then it turns to another result. So therefore, you have to learn that a little bit. Back to you.
Yep, and in that sense of what we are handing back, giving back, communicating back to the end user, you see there at step 5, we also, let's say it in a fancy marketing way, we enrich the experience also. So we add images, we add hyperlinks, we add follow-up prompts to make the bot more meaningful. And actually, I think it's time to jump over and look at the demo case, because and we will make that slide deck available. It goes deeper depending on how much time we have, but the interesting part and what we are really starting right now is like a challenge. Is the bot fake or real? And what we will do with all those slides down there is that there will be a typical phrase that Hans and we encountered during the years of working with customers around SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft 365, you name it, and what they are asking in terms of what is a question for OneDrive, what's around, in that case, for example, password protection. And I will show the slide deck. I will let Hans answer the question so you can get a feeling of what he knows around OneDrive. And at the same time, I will open up the chat here and basically ask the same question the bot, so we can see how the bot works, and we can play a little bit with question and answers and give you a feeling how you can interact with the bot. And in the meantime, again, I encourage you to go over to your app store when it's possible and try it for yourself with CommunityBot for OneDrive. Okay, first phrase or first curveball, or it's not really a curveball because we did that already so many times. Password protection.
Oh, password protection in OneDrive. So if you share some document or something else, a folder, you can also have a password in it. That means it's a good thing because most of the people, most of the IT departments say external sharing, no way. So I say, okay, you can share it, but it's in two phrases. The first one is an exactly email, okay, but it's open all the time and I don't want it. The second one is a thing that you say, okay, if you got the link, other persons got the link, they have all the access, except if you got a password in it. So that means with the password, you have the chance to find the right thing, only the people, and after a different time, this anonymous link will be closed automatically. So yes, that's the answer. And you have only this small event here.
Yep.
I lost it.
Yeah, I just tried something in the meantime because this is now my web client, and I just typed in a different question. You see the timestamp, it's really like I connected the bot now with my other tenant. And just to give you the idea, it's not only that I can say, I throw in some phrases, I can really format the question, like, can I protect my files with a password? Just not to give you like the exact same phrasing you see from PowerPoint. And that's actually what we are all seeing, that people might ask in sentences, in questions, and not only like in terms. And then you get back the answer. And that's the idea of the bot, that you have this little helper in your Teams environment, and whenever you have a question around OneDrive, you basically get back those results quickly inside of Teams. And in a more general way of thinking, it introduces you the idea to your own knowledge base as well, because at the end of the day, we are storing information about OneDrive. Yes, that's correct, but the idea can be transformed or reused with every subject matter at hand. It doesn't need to be around OneDrive alone. Okay, let's try, or let's move on. Another very important question I think everyone at least thought about: how much data, or more modern, how much stuff can I put into OneDrive, Hans?
It depends. That's a short version.
Okay, that's easy. That's easy.
That's easy. Okay, it depends on your business plan. If you have a small business plan, business plans, that goes with to 1 terabyte, and if you have an E3 or higher plan, you have always 1 terabyte, but you can increase this stuff up to 5 terabyte. And if it's not enough, you can also have more, up to 25 or unlimited. But that's a normal thing, what you can do automatically. And people has to know about this stuff. 1 terabyte is not so easy. It's easy. But thinking as an administrator, as a global administrator, you can say, okay, thinking 50,000 users, and you have 1 terabyte, and there people say, we want to have more. And you say, okay, I give now, take it, 4 terabyte, return. So that means in the background, 50,000, 3 terabytes, that's 103, that's a lot of petabytes they have to install. I always say to the people, thinking the people have to adjust the hard disk in Azure, because that's not there. And that has to be provisioned, and therefore it takes a little bit more. But I also want to say, I have talked a little bit more, but you see also in this article, not only that something is in bold, but you see also a Microsoft article. Most of the articles I found are well documented at docs.microsoft.com. And you see, I have not searched anymore. I'm exactly at this time where I want. But sometimes they write it a little bit down, and you have to look and then and again. And therefore, it's possible to say, okay, I write my blog posts in German and English, and therefore click on the English part. You see, that's a little bit more. I have a table. Then you see Office 365 Enterprise, and you see all the new names and the old names, because people don't know that what they have on storage. So that's only the 2 parts we say. We say if it's Microsoft, we can take it, but sometime around you have written an article, and therefore it's although in there. And you see although a great picture. So we found out that's okay, but with this picture you see there is a white space. You can describe it, and this white space, below, that's not us. That's Microsoft. That's a bug.
Yeah, you call it a bug. Someone would probably argue it's a feature in a very weird way. The challenge we are facing here is that you can of course use the community bot for OneDrive also on your mobile phone, on the platform of your choice. On your phone, this picture actually would look really lovely, and it fits perfect in there. We are here in the web experience, and the web experience and the desktop experience of Teams is a different technology stack compared to the mobile platforms. So there's a different app. It's not the same code running on all platforms.
So that means
also the case a couple of years ago, but it's not now anymore. Yeah. So we need to adopt.
So we need to test more than once. We have to test inside the Q&A maker. If it runs well, you have to test it also. You publish that, and then you see what's coming out, see it in the desktop version, and then you see it parallel also on the mobile version, and then you can react on that. A lot of testing is although because this is not a thing that they know exactly Q&A. No, that's a Q&A markdown language in Teams and markdown language in the Q&A maker. It's a little bit not the same.
Yep. Because in the end of the day, we just grabbing content from the Q&A maker and routing it through the Azure bot framework and hand it over to Teams, because our bot has a Teams channel. So we don't really have an impact on the rendering here. Because another example is that we would like to be able to embed a video also, or to add video here, but at the moment, that's not possible on the desktop. It's possible on the phone in a beta version already, but not on the desktop yet. So we still need to wait to maybe also add like a short video here, just to play and then explain stuff. Because what we want to achieve is really like a go-to point to ask about OneDrive. And you see here, Hans made a lot of effort in formatting the answers, make sure they are easy to read, linking out to background information, to Microsoft or his own blog post. And we are also adding a couple of nice images so that you can better understand the answer. And an interesting part is also this down here. You all know that from, again, use this phrase from a certain retailer from the Seattle region that is really, really good in knowing what people bought the same thing that you are searching for. And it's the same thing here. So Hans knows, okay, storage in Wonderful Business. You're probably also interested in storage in SharePoint Online. So it's a follow-up prompt. You can click there, and then you have a new question, and you get back the answer from free of charge storage in SharePoint Online. So it's like, okay, I'm asking one thing, and the bot not only gives me the answer to that certain question, but it also recommends other topics, other questions, other areas that you might find interesting. And so it starts like it's like browsing through knowledge, and not only like searching. It's two different approaches, or at least we think that it adds value if we provide you also with recommendations from a user perspective.
And now coming back to the languages, because only 2 languages, that was a thing that the formatting with the stars and all these special things with Markdown gives us a problem. Because if we translate it in English, or coming from English, have the answer in English and translate it back to, let's say, Dutch. The Dutch, he has a question from Dutch. Therefore, we have to going back to Dutch. Means we have to look for not only for the translation, because of all these formatting stuff brings us problem. Not with Dutch. Dutch is not a problem. Spanish is not a problem. Portuguese was not a problem. But with all the languages, Czechoslovakian, Poland, and so on, that gives us a lot of trouble. And therefore, there was a decision. Let's give us first in 2 languages, and later on we look for that.
We are still committed to make it available on a broader spectrum. But for now, we stuck with English and German, and you can go back and forth. German, of course, is special for us because it's way easier for us to express ourselves in our own language. So that's a given that we provide those that know us more dearly our own language. But English, I think, is a good starting point for all the possible, what is it now, 140 million daily users of Teams,
yeah,
or something, some absurd number like that. Going back, I'm looking at my watch. We have 6 minutes left, so let's jump into another important topic. Hans, what file types am I allowed to store in OneDrive? What's the deal with different file types?
So we have 320 different file types, and the thing is, it's not only for allowed. Sometimes you should not going and upload this stuff. So there is a form of group policy, or you can do it although on your machine if you if you want it. Some problems, and it's a part of regex. That's a wildcard characteristic, and you can say, okay, all *.txt. That means all txt files from now on will not be uploaded. So that's a possibility that we can have. But you can have it also on a global thing, but here you can do it on your machine or in a different department. So that's a difference.
Okay. Let me go back to the next one. Yeah. A special thing also for us in terms of translation. As you see, we picked now a word or a phrase, Fort Knox. That how would you translate Fort Knox to all different languages? And what is Fort Knox actually?
Fort Knox is it's you know that where the gold is stored in US, so that calls Fort Knox this bank. And Fort Knox is also in SharePoint, comes back in I think 2013 of SharePoint premise, and brings you the possibility that you have it different encryption technology, and it's encryption at rest, but taking the most people know it as Fort Knox security. Means you see, clicking on the stuff, clicking on this picture, you see a word or something else will be divided in different 64K segments. And then they will start, each vault will be started with a different key. And if you have that, that's a short version. There's a video in there, okay? But you see, that's a lot of things, 64K, a lot long Word documents have to be more and more vaults. And if you say, okay, the NSA will take it, no way, they have to do it between 24 hours, because this word with this VUFC will be changed each 24 hours. Not only this one, all your files, you have all your files of the company you have, all tenants all around the globe will have to change each 24 hours. That will be done in the past. We do not have the key. Microsoft has not the key. It's an encrypted secret, and they will change permanently. That's Fort Knox.
Perfect. So coming back to the bot, you see again a video linked from docs.microsoft.com, information about BitLocker, and of course, again, a follow-up prompt. In the last 2 minutes, let me just jump over for a second to the App Store to show you where to find the bot. So if you head over to your App Store and search for OneDrive, you should find it. You will only find it once, because this is actually my development environment. So there are different versions, and only I know which version is what. So search for it. You will see Community Bot for OneDrive, and then install it. It's a bot that is only available in a one-on-one chat, so no group chat at the moment, so you can't deploy to your team. It's just for your personal use, and then you're good to go, and you will have this bot here like we showed you during the last 15 or 20 minutes. Try some questions, give us feedback if there is some answers missing, or if there are questions and you're not happy with the answer, because what Hans actually tried to achieve is that we I think we have a ratio of 6 questions to 1 answer. So there's we try to create a broad set of possible questions that maybe come back to the same topic, to be able to answer as many requests possible, but still nothing is perfect. So reach out and give us feedback if there is something missing. How to do that? I think there is a thank you slide here. Reach out on Twitter or on LinkedIn, connect, ask questions. We are happy to help. And with that,
you can, yes, go to slide 32.
We can
and give us feedback. We all have to know we are working on the second version. It takes some time because the good thing is that we can, the OneDrive client now comes in 64 bits, and during the installation, that was a very interesting stuff. Hey, he doesn't know that. And I was in there and put the things in. And after an hour, I have to say to the people, try it again. And then the information was done. Not only by his, but all around the globe. So therefore, that's a good thing that you can change that. Give us feedback and install it and test it, and then you will see if you have the possibility to take the people that have no idea, except from the IT, what OneDrive is really.
With that, I throw the ball back to Paul.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. Great presentation there. And what a thing to create, though, a bot that is offering advice around how to use the platform. Brilliant way of doing it. I've not seen any questions come into the chat, so if there are questions out there, please do post them in the chat. I have a question myself.
Yep.
For you both, because bots is something I looked at a while ago with such things. Was it quite a challenge? I know you spoke about some of the stuff with back and forth with Microsoft. Was it quite a challenge to get your bot put into the App Store then in Teams?
It's a moving target. The thing is that we looked at the prerequisites for entering your manifest to the platform. And at that point, we thought, okay, we did everything right. And yeah, we prepared stuff and then we submitted, not knowing that the process changed a little bit. So we were a little bit surprised by some rule changes. We were surprised by comments around multi-language and naming. I get a little bit, yeah. I think it's a strong word, but it's correct in that case. I get angry if someone that not speaks German tells me what my bot should write back in German. That's probably the one example that sets you the expectations of what you can do. It's probably way easier if you just say, okay, I'm only English speaking and I don't use multi-language and all those things. That gets a little bit complicated. And yeah. if for every developer such a project is something like your baby, and then someone else comes around and tells you what you need to write there and how you need to position yourself in your own language, knowing that the other person has no idea what this means. And it's like simple things. For example, in the current cycle we are in, I was asked what our OneDrive add-in does. And my answer was, what's a OneDrive add-in? So it's a little bit of ping pong, back and forth, jumping through some hoops. If it's in, you're good to go, because I can change the Azure application without them knowing in an instant. So.
But I have shown, talking with the product group, that's although the product group knows me, and personal. Last time I was in the States, I have one day off and I have invited me myself to the product group. I know the people. And Jeff Teeper, for example, who holds a keynote, I have to say, now we are ready, we have it done. And he looks at that, and that was in the morning, on a Saturday morning, and he writes me me back who was the developer of the other side, because not all people know Jeff. We know Jeff Teeper, but Jeff Teeper knows a lot of MVPs. But there are different categories, and therefore I say, okay, these guys in AI and so on. And then he said, okay, if we, that was his sentence, if we advised we have a new functionality, you write it, bring it in, and then you have it also for all the people. He absolutely, that comes in 30 seconds, or let's say 2 minutes, what he understand the bot, what the bot is doing. So that was a good thing from the product group, and the bad things are regulations and so on.
Yeah, it's just a process you need to follow, and yeah, Microsoft internals, you need to follow those rules. It's like more like yeah, I don't have the right words for this day of the time, but I think you get what I want to say.
No problem at all. Brilliant stuff. Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us all. I know I'm for one, I'm going to go off and have a look at your bot, download it into my tenant and have a play with it. Looking forward to doing that. So
pleasure.
Thank you very much, guys. Brilliant session. I've posted a link for feedback in the chat. The QR code's there on the screen, so please do leave your feedback, people, on this session, for both the event and for the speakers today. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you have an enjoyable rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
See you around. Bye.